Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Rob and welcome to Freelance Health and Physical Therapy. We're starting a new segment today, which I like to call Sacred Beef. And in Sacred Beef, we're going to be taking sacred cows, ideas that people cherish, and we're going to be using science and reason to turn said sacred cows into sacred beef. Today, in part 1 of episode 1, we'll be talking about how exercise technique isn't really all that important for preventing injuries. Some would say it is. Looking at the research, it's not. It's not. Before we get too far into the weeds, let's first set our terms. The exercises that I'm talking about here are classic strength training exercises like squats, deadlifts, pull-ups, rows, bicep curls, bench press, things like that, sit-ups. Where exceptions exist, I'll try to address them, but there's too many exceptions for me to address them all, and I don't really want to anyway. I only have so much time with this video. As fun as it would be for me to talk about every exercise ever, not gonna do it. I'm just not gonna do it. If you want me to address a specific exception, leave a comment below, ask a question. But if you are gonna ask a question, just please be civil, be graceful. I will also be defining strict technique as an externally defined movement pattern, claiming to keep the body in ideal alignment in order to maximize work efficiency and minimize the likelihood of injury. And again, that definition makes it sound like technique is real important. Gosh, it sounds important. But again, as I mentioned before, earlier, it's not. Strict technique does none of the things that it claims to do. Let me tell you why. First off, it's Procrustean. By that I mean it takes something inherently variable and forces it into a box of oversimplification. Every human body is different. Every human body is going to move differently. You know how people are always talking about how amazing it is that every snowflake is some unique thing? Oh, dude, it's like this water vapor from the ocean floats up into space, and then there's like dust, and it like makes this like flower of ice around this dust, and it comes down, and it's so magical, and they're all unique and different. Okay, cool, they're all different. Humans are all different too. Andre the Giant was a human. So is Wicket Warwick, still human. That's way more impressive than a snowflake. Don't care about snowflakes. But the point I'm trying to make there is that the spectrum of what a human is hugely variable. How tall a person is, gender, how much they weigh, all of these things are gonna have impacts on joint geometry and movement patterns. It just doesn't make sense that there'd be one single movement technique that every human being should be subjected to. And this movement pattern that we're talking about for like a classic squat was just made up by just a bunch of dudes? Are you kidding me, dude? No, that's not how things are. That's not how anything is. What does the research say? Down in the description, I linked an article by Pavlova et al., where they study spine curvature in relation to how a person is able to perform a squat using standardized technique. And they find that people with a more curvaceous spine are more able to perform a classic squat versus people that have a straighter spine, which is normal. That's not an uncommon thing. People that have a straighter spine have more difficulty performing a classic standardized squat. In the research article below, they go on to say that, yeah, maybe this suggests that squat should be taught on an individual basis. Technique should vary person to person to account for the inherent variability in human spinal geometry. That makes total sense. You know it. I know it. That's it. It's also pessimistic to think that humans need some sort of specific squat technique in order to move safely, to avoid injury. To think that the human body, your savage body that spent the last 300,000 years evolving to fight and fornicate and forage in famine and infirmity, but somehow can't figure out how to squat safely. Now, Was there modern strength training a century ago? No. Did people do squats for recreation back in the day? Also no. Was the average life expectancy back then about 18 years? Yes. Does that mean by their standards that I'm about 158? Also yes. All fair points. If you don't think that the human body picked up some nifty tricks to adapt to and overcome stressors, if you really don't think that we can handle it, then maybe you've never heard of the CITED principle, which is the principle that all modern strength training is built on, which is that the body responds to stress by remodeling and rebuilding. A muscle gets stronger because you stress it out. When you stress bones, they remodel and they get thicker and they get heavier and stronger. Cool, dude. Human body is rad. The human body is great, dude. Give it some credit. Training with super strict technique also ignores human reality and what human life actually is, which is unpredictable and chaotic. Training with strict technique is a bit like training for an MMA fight without ever sparring with anybody. Or it's like training for a cross-country race by just running on a treadmill. Say you're like a French poodle and you're getting primped up, and then your owners bring you out into the wilderness and they say, here you go, we brought you home. And you're like, and they're like, no, look, your family's here to greet you. And it's a bunch of wolves. Oh, they seem friendly. Very talkative, wouldn't you say? There you go play. Ooh. Oh. Holy shit. Should we try to, I think the kids would want us to at least grab the head. Maybe we should get the collar. Collar was expensive. I'm gonna try to, okay, yep, you can have the collar. That's fine. No, we don't, yeah, okay. Let's go. In a study cited below, Wu et al. Found that higher levels of task-related motor variability predicted faster learning, both in related and unrelated motor tasks, which is basically saying that if you have looser technique, not only are you gonna learn the type of movement that you're practicing faster, but it's also going to train your brain to learn other unrelated movement patterns faster as well. That's so awesome. Why would you want to train any other way? Get some. God, the human body is so cool. Like, you got to give it credit, man. Like, just have a little faith. Have a little faith in me. And lastly, as I mentioned in the beginning, strict technique does not prevent injuries. Okay, they've been researching this for decades now. And when they look at the research for what causes an injury, it's not technique. It's two things, okay? Preparation and load. That's it. Preparation is a term used to describe training age, so how long they've been training, experience with a given movement pattern or a given type of load. And I would say that it also includes health history and history of injuries. In PT school, they told us that the #1 predictor of injury was a previous injury, and they were right. Load refers to acute and chronic load. Acute overload causes an acute injury. Broken bone, torn muscle, torn ligament, torn tendon. Chronic overload gives you something more like a chronic injury, right? So you get an itis, bursitis, tendonitis, epicondylitis. It's like this. Here's the most work you can do, and here's where you are during the day, okay? You go to the gym and you work and you're bringing it down, right? Because you have to use energy and you have to use resources, and you're done at the gym, you go back home and you rest. And if you rest enough and let your body recover, it gets back to full capacity. So you get back up to full capacity, and then you go back to the gym and you crank it out again, and you go back home and you're resting, but you don't get a full night's sleep and you don't take enough time off between workouts, and your diet's terrible and you overdrink, okay? You don't get back up to flush, okay? And then you go back into the gym, right? And then you bust it back down and your body recovers. You get even less recovery the next time. And you go back in and you bust it down, and then you get even less recovery and less and less and less. Okay, that difference right there, that discrepancy is chronic overload. You're not getting that full recovery. Now you'd think that having excellent technique would save you in one of these conditions, but no, the truth of the matter is that your pristine technique doesn't stand a chance against an acute overload or a chronic overload or underpreparedness. You overload pristine technique and you end up on America's Funniest Videos with Bob Saget. Okay, let's summarize. The universe is not black and white, it's gray. It's gray from edge to edge, except for black holes in country music, it's gray. Some people can deadlift 1,000 pounds with terrible technique. Some people can't tie their shoes without hurting their back. Some people have glass legs like my cousin. He can't run 2 miles without getting shin splints. Some people, like Pt.1, everyone's favorite elite marathon runner, can crush a marathon with running technique that it looks like she learned it in like a magazine she found floating down a river. Her running technique is insane and she murders it out there. In general, most people don't have to worry about exercise technique as much as other people would have them believe, because ultimately effective training and injury prevention is about preparation and load management. It's about program design. A good thing to remember is that there's no such thing as a bad movement, just underprepared or overloaded movers. That's it. That's it. That's the whole thing. That's what this whole thing is about. I just talked to my camera for, I think I've recorded about 2 hours, and I boiled it down to hopefully less than 7 minutes. And all I needed to say this whole time was, hey, guys, effective training and injury prevention, yeah, it's really actually about preparation and load management. It's not really so much about exercise technique. Okay, see you, bye. If you want to know more about some of the things that I was talking about in this video, check down below in the description. There's a couple of research articles that I cited that I used in coming up with this presentation. Also, do me a huge favor. I want you to like the video, subscribe, share, leave a comment, ask a question. Hook it up, man, hook it up. This is all good information, and what makes it good is that it's true. The better we're able to actually describe the reality around us, the better the world becomes. Becomes more open and honest and fucking righteous, dude. So, tune in next week for part 2 of episode 1 of Sacred Beef, where we're gonna talk about what technique is actually good for. And then someday we'll do part 3. I don't know. Thanks for watching. And as always, stronger all day, every day.